2022. I'm privileged to be moderating this session, and my name is Basemera Rhoda, Evaluation Officer at Uganda Revenue Authority. And together with me is a team of experts from the Trade Division. We are live on the URA TV and on our YouTube channel, URA TV. We shall have this webinar run for 2 hours from 10 a.m. to midday. So please be sure to stay with us. For a couple of weeks, we have had a discussion on the 2021-2022 tax amendments in general and the policies that have been put in place that will be running for this financial year. So in case you missed any of those, you can please go to our YouTube channel, the URA TV, and be sure to catch us there. I know most of us have had the budget or are familiar with it. We all know that Uganda's domestic revenue target for this financial year 2021-2022 is projected at 22,425 billion. Now, this is equivalent to 13.8 of Uganda's GDP. Now, this compares to 19,432 billion shillings of the last financial year. This sets a great target for Uganda Revenue Authority amidst this pandemic. In order to be able to attain this, the entity has put in place different measures and tax policies that will enable it meet the revenue targets. And among these policies are the customs tax amendments that we are here to discuss this morning. Some of these amendments are a point of contention or are what is out there and you people have been discussing. We look at the increase in the duty rate of 35% or $3.5 per kilogram, whichever is higher on garments, and a duty rate of 35% or $3 per kilogram, whichever is higher on fabrics. And this has been the center of controversy and discussion in the public for the last few weeks. This morning, we shall be discussing these and many more. So please be sure to stay with us and send through your questions. We are here to educate you, but to also interact with you. So in the event that you have any questions that regard the topic of discussion, which is customs tax amendments for 2021-2022, please be sure to send them through the chat of the webinar, or you can go to YouTube on our page, URA TV, and be able to drop your questions. We will be sure to answer and respond to them. Now, did you know that much as taxes on garments and wheelbarrows, carpets like side mirrors and dashboards have been increased, we have tax rates that have been reduced on some items, like lithium batteries, non-electric stoves, and cookers, plus many others. Did you also know that we have different tax incentives and duty remissions that are available for raw materials and inputs used to manufacture masks, sanitizers, ventilators, PP gears, and other items specifically used for COVID? Or on the input of assemble of mobile phones, cookers, flat irons, speakers, blenders, and many of these. This is being done in a bid to promote industrialization, import substitution, and export promotion. Please remain with us, and you are going to be hearing from us and our panelists this morning. Now, on the panel today is a team of seasoned tax collectors. These two people have vast knowledge and experience in the tax policies. We have Elinathan Masiko, a supervisor in tariff, and we have Sheila Chomjisha, the acting supervisor, tariff, all working at Uganda Revenue Authority. Once again, you're most welcome. I am Basemera Rhoda, the moderator for this session. Mr. Masiko, if I may go straight to you, what are these tax amendments that came into effect on the 1st of July 2021 and will be running till the 30th of June 2022? Which of them are new? What exactly has changed is our interest today. And what could be these other changes that have been running in the last financial year and have been carried forward? And finally, if I may ask, what could have informed these decisions?
Thank you and good morning, everyone. It is a privilege indeed to be in the studio this morning to discuss this important topic. Names are Elinathan Masiko, as the moderator has mentioned, and I'll take you through the key areas that the moderator has requested me to take you through. On the screen, you'll be looking at some of those areas, and the key highlights in this regard that for the financial year 2021 or 2022, we will be in the second year of implementation of the National Development Plan 3, whose overall goal is to increase household incomes and improve the quality of life of Ugandans. And the Honorable Minister of Finance, in the presentation of the budget, had a theme, which is industrialization for inclusive growth, employment, and wealth creation. So our presentation is aimed at looking at that theme in detail and the policies that have been put in place to meet that theme that the Honorable Minister put across. So the government policies will be mainly to support that, and we are looking at import substitution, export promotion, promotion of industrialization, promotion of agriculture, improving the transport sector. As you see in the presentation, there are many measures that have been put in place to make sure that we compete with our neighbors. Then also promoting regional integration, because in terms of numbers, we'll be able to be a strong regional economic community. Then there are also policies to protect the environment. Then there are also policies to protect the mineral sector and its contribution to the government revenue. We've discovered a lot of minerals, and we shall be seeing how government intends to make sure that the people of Uganda benefit from these provisions. Then we'll be looking at how the government intends to improve on the fisheries sector through these policies, and how the fisheries sector is going to contribute to government revenue. There's also areas of the health sector where government is indeed trying to purposely improve the health sector. Then hydropower, those small dams that are going to be boosting on the current energy levels that we have as a country. Then we'll be also looking at promoting the oil and gas sector for our country. So I'll just give you some quick statistics. These are all based on the budget speech 2021. And one critical area is that how are we faring in terms of economic growth? So for this financial year, economic growth is projected at 3.3%, rising from 3.0 last financial year. The economy has grown significantly over the last 5 years. The size of the economy has grown from 108.5 trillion in 2016-17 to shillings 148.3 trillion in the current prices of June 2021. and in dollars it is equivalent to US dollars 40 billion. So that is our economy. So in terms of the sectors that are contributing, the industrial sector contributes slightly from 26% in 2016 to now 27.4% in 2020-2021. That goes for the mining sector as well, that the contribution of the mining and quarrying industry in Uganda's economy to GDP increased from 1.1 to 2.3. This is a great leap from 1.1 to 2.3 in 2020-2021. So it is one area that we have to harness as a country to make sure that it benefits the citizens. Then in the agriculture sector, as you'll notice from the latter presentation, the economy has stagnated around 23% over the last 5 years. So the big questions are why, and the government has put in place certain mechanisms to make sure that the agriculture sector moves from this contribution of 23% to something better. Exports, as you saw in the NDP3 program, exports are one of the priority areas, and merchandise exports grew by 4.7%, increasing from US 4.1 billion in 2019 to USD 4.3 billion in 2020. The agriculture export values also grew by 19% from 1.4 billion to 1.8 billion in 2019-2020. So the citizenry, everybody listening in, this is an area to join and see what exports we can put across so that our export bill can be looking much better. Tourism, there was also an increment from 1.35 million in 2015 to 1.6 billion in 2018. Annual tourist arrivals also increased from 1.3 to 1.5 million during the same period. Unfortunately, the COVID outbreak has caused a huge setback to tourism, and that's a bit of a challenge. Then foreign direct investment, my colleague Sheila will be talking in detail about the FDI flow. There are incentives that the government has put in place to make sure that we get in more resources for the country to benefit from foreign direct investment. So in Uganda, it amounted to 1.3 billion in 2019. It increased by a high loop of 20% from 1.1 billion in 2018, and the domestic investments increased by 13% from USD 385 million to 433 million in the same period, which is very remarkable, and my colleague will take you through the details in terms of how the sector indeed performed. So employment, in terms of employment, we have about 68% of Ugandans who work in agriculture. 74% of Ugandans of an average working age are engaged in some form of employment. Formal employment has also expanded by 17%, which is also a big loop between 2016 and 17 and 2019-2020. So we need to see avenues that will create jobs. And the Customs Department, more so Uganda Revenue Authority, plays an important role in promotion of the aforementioned key strategies of government, and highlighted below will be in detail some of those sectors that we are looking at. So as a revenue measure, I'll begin with the fuel. The rate on fuel was increased to 1,450 per litre, and this is a revenue measure to promote government in terms of the basket. Then on diesel, it was increased to 1,130. It is also a revenue measure. Then we have had also items in the plastic category where excise duty has been increased from 2.5, so has been put as a new measure at 2.5 or $70 per ton, whichever is higher. So this one applies to plastic products and plastic granules. And plastic products indeed are diverse in this regard, and those are the relevant HS codes that we've selected in the interim as we continue to improve on this particular area. Then cider is a new drink imported currently, but the factories are looking at actually starting to manufacture cider. So it has been also expressly catered for in the Excise Act, where we now have 60% or shillings 950 per litre whichever is higher as the rate. Yes, we've had a lot of gold coming through. We have a number of industries or processing plants that have been set up to try and ensure that the country benefits from this, and there is an export levy currently of 5% of the value of a kilogram at export, and this is going to enable the country benefit from the growth trends realized in the sector. When you look at our export volumes, you realize that gold is performing very well, and we're hoping that we shall benefit from this. Then we have other unprocessed minerals, and some of these include minerals like vermiculite, like the stones from the earth. So these will be charged if they are unprocessed at 10% of the value. We have marble in Karamoja, vermiculite in eastern Uganda. All these will be charged at 10% once they are exported out of Uganda as unprocessed minerals. So these are the HS codes we've highlighted, and those will be the specific target areas. In addition to that, we have tobacco. We've been net exporters of tobacco leaf. Some factories have come up now to manufacture tobacco, and they are shredding it into a product called cat rag. And once tobacco leaf is exported as leaf, then a levy of 0.8 per kg will be levied. This is to encourage value addition in the sector so that the country can benefit more when there's more value addition, other than simply exporting leaf. We can do better as a country, and this is the move that the government of Uganda has made. Then we have fish maws, popularly known as nuni. They are a delicacy in the Asian world, and there's a boom in the export of this product, and the government has imposed a levy of 8% on the value of the fish maw, which is exported out of Uganda, and we are hoping that as this grows, then the country also stands to benefit in this regard. Then we've had the supply of clinker. Clinker is imported. We also have locally procured clinker from our own rocks, but the imported one will have a VAT rate of 18% on the clinker. That will also simultaneously apply to the locally produced clinker. So this is mainly to align the VAT structure so that the entire value chain of VAT up to the final product can be properly traced. As moderator has mentioned, we have textiles. Textiles have been realized as one of the most important economic generation for job creation, as one of those basic products that can create the largest jobs in most of the governments across Africa. So in a move to try and encourage investment in this area, the government of Uganda has increased the CET rate of 0 or 10 or 25, and there is an application of a duty rate of 35% or US dollars $3 per kg, whichever is higher for 1 year, so that we look inward, produce our own cotton fabrics, and do the entire value chain and employ more people. As you know, it's really unemployment is an issue that the government is taking very, very seriously. Then on garments, this is mainly to do transformation from the fabric to now the clothes that we wear. The government has increased garments from 0, 10, 25, and the rate of 35% or 3.5, whichever is higher, for 1 year has been put. So this is intended to promote the textile sector. This is when indeed it is properly aligned. Most governments have reaped benefits in this, and we are hoping the government of Uganda will benefit from this as well. The next is wheelbarrows. The government of Uganda has increased the rate from 10% to 25% for 1 year. We have a very vibrant industry in the wheelbarrows. Our industrial sector has taken this up very seriously. We have locally manufactured wheelbarrows, and this has employed quite a number of people. So the rate is at 25% on wheelbarrows to protect the local producers. Then we have also had meat. You may not believe, but we get meat from all over the world. And Uganda has a well-developed beef sector that needs to be protected from these cheap imports, which at some point are subsidized. We also have mechanically deboned meat, which is competing with our local broiler chicken. And this comes in paste form, and the rate will be at 60% used in the manufacture of sausages. Then we have paper and paperboard labels of all kinds, whether or not printed. These are, we have a very vibrant industry when you go down to Nkuruma Road or Nasa Road. These are products that we produce locally. So there's been an increment to 35% to make sure that we produce our own labels and printed matter. The deep cycle batteries, as you are aware, the country has produced deep cycle batteries. We have had Uganda batteries for some time. Uganda batteries has been joined by other factories in Jinja, a number of them, up to around 4. And the rate was increased to 35% to try and protect these factories. So in this case, there's one battery which we have not yet started producing, which is called the lithium battery. And the specific tariff line, as displayed on the board, has been excluded, that as soon as we produce these batteries, then the rate can also match the other batteries, which include deep cycle batteries, the GL cell batteries, etc. PVC trunkings, yes, these are from plastics, and Uganda has a lot of capacity. We have very many factories making plastic pipes. The trunking is in the same category. Then another job source is crude palm oil. We've had crude palm oil coming in from the Asian countries, and Uganda has also undertaken growing of palm oil in our Kalangala area. We also have a lot of sunflower in northern Uganda. Then we have other sources of edible oil, which include groundnuts, which include corn oil, and these are all being promoted. So to try and counter the cheap crude palm oil that is coming in and make sure we grow our own from within the country, Uganda government has tried to match other partner states in the EAC, such as Tanzania, and put a rate of 10% for Uganda, but for Tanzania it's at 25, and Uganda, which has had it at 0, will now go to 10% to try and match our regional partners and also promote other sources of oil. Then we've had the angles, shapes, sections, the I sections, the H sections. We have factories in Uganda that are making these sections, and they have been moved from 0% to 10% for 1 year to make sure that these factories can also supply a product that we consume in great quantities. And we have seen most economies develop that whenever you consume a product, produce it. And that is the government of Uganda's theme that we are trying to pursue and support as Uganda Revenue Authority. Side mirrors are also one of those high-end products that we have as a country importing. And Uganda has now built capacity to manufacture these products, in addition to what we already manufacture, like tires for motorcycles. So this is an addition to the basket of items we produce for motorcycles and for motor vehicles that are also in the category of those that are being protected. We are also aware that we produce quality ceramic sinks, wash basins, baths, bidets, closet bath systems. Our factory in Kapeka is making very good quality products in this regard, and the rate has been increased to 35% to try and protect these and create jobs. The whole value chain benefits a number of people, from the trucks that carry the soil, from where they mine the soil, from the manufacture of these products which are shaped. There are many people who are in the entire value chain, including the laborers and the output. We're also net exporters of the same products, which is a plus for our country and our economy. Then we've had stoves, ranges. These are products which we are looking at, which are supposed to provide clean cooking technologies. And these stoves are very critical in this regard, and the rate has been reduced to 10%. Then we have the alloy steel. Alloy steel in this regard has had a rate of 10%, but is a raw material, a basic raw material that is used in the manufacture of iron sheets and welded pipes. These are also very critical for our economy. In addition to that, we've had a stay of application on zinc-coated wires. This is to protect the local industry, more specifically the zinc coating factories. We do coat wire, we also coat iron sheets. Then we also have mechanically deboned meat, like the moderator had mentioned. On mechanically deboned meat, we have those which have a high rate of 60%, which are for direct consumption, but for manufacturers, this is their raw material, those who manufacture sausages, and we will have the rate reduced to 35 from 60%. So that's why you see a double in this regard. Then we have also had greaseproof papers and other craft paper, majorly for the corrugated box manufacturing industry, plus the printing industry that uses this product in great quantity. Then we have also the craft paper that we are seeing as well. Before the craft paper, we have the cable wire. This is the core that appears in the middle of the cable. It is restricted to cable manufacturers. The rate has been reduced to 0% for 1 year to promote industrialization. That goes for craft liner in rolls and for corrugated box manufacturers. We've also had BOPP, which is used in the manufacture of printing, the packaging for, say, biscuits, packaging for juices. So this BOPP material is very, very important. It's not available in the region, and Uganda has had it reduced to 0% to promote the industry of printing and also packaging. Next is plastic packaging bags for coffee. Coffee, as you know, we are trying to do value addition to stop exporting coffee beans in their raw form. It's a theme that His Excellency the President has promoted over and over again. And we have now had factories doing coffee roasting. So these are the aseptic bags that are used to package coffee, and the rate has been reduced to 10% for 1 year, and they are going to be very helpful in packaging coffee for export, value-added coffee in this regard. Then we have a local manufacturer of toughened glass. This is the bulletproof glass, or the glass which cannot, where when you throw a stone, it cannot completely break. So the toughened glass is imported in that form, and the rate indeed has been increased from 10% to 25% to make sure that this industry is able to survive based on the competition that we have from the countries that are importing these products into Uganda. Then we have gumboot linings. These are used to manufacture gumboots. The outer part of the gumboots is plastic. So these ones are meant to protect the foot from getting harmed. So we have a local factory that is manufacturing this product. We have a factory in Jinja called Sigma Knitting, and this is a product of import substitution. Then beauty makeup preparations, the Movit is locally here, and we are now looking at those imported cosmetics, increased from 25% to 35%, majorly to protect the local industries, such as Movit or Samona, that are producing these herbal products. Then beverages from artificial extracts that include items such as Rock Boom, the Red Bull. So we have local companies already manufacturing these energy drinks, like Harris International, and we stand to benefit as a country. That's why the rate has been increased to 60% instead of 25% to make sure we capture this market locally. Then we've had self-adhesive plates or films of the foil, tapes, and strip. Uganda stays the application from 25 to 35, still to promote local manufacturing. We have a company called Graphic Systems that is engaged in the manufacture of these particular self-adhesive products. And the sellotapes of this world is what we are looking at. So they add glue and make sellotape locally, which gives a few of our Ugandans jobs And the more we promote this, the better for the economy. Then we've had also other propelling 3920-2090. This is in a printed form label used in packaging for quality produce. And the fact that we manufacture it locally, the rate has been increased from 25% to 35% to promote local producers. The printing industry at Nkuruma Road is very vibrant, and they are able to produce this. We had also one of the government programs for, say, which was like demystifying the gun, where we had the chaka-mchaka. But for this particular case, we are now demystifying the mobile phone. Some of us carry the mobile phone, but we don't know what is inside. So our youth from the technical institutes like Chambogo are actually now employed by companies such as Engo Holdings, demystifying the phone, and the internal components are brought in at 0%, and the rate of import duty has been increased to 10% to make sure that these companies survive and can be able to help us in this process of demystifying these electronic components that we consume in great quantities. We've also had on clothing. Uganda is to stay the application of the CET of the US dollar for 0.4 per kg or 35. We're now applying a plain 35% to help promote and keep our industry vibrant, more specifically those which are afforded by our local population. Then we've had special projects where government is very interested in, which projects are large in scale. They have a special operating framework with the government of Uganda, and once the minister approves it, then they get import duty, 0% on their imports. And this special project facility has helped bring up very huge projects, and we appreciate government for this, and it's a revenue measure that we will benefit from the labor, the pay as you earn, the VAT that these companies will generate in the process of manufacturing or in the process of starting such huge projects. Then we've had companies requesting to have parts of chains so that they can manufacture bicycle chains or industrial machinery. So the duty on these particular products has been reduced from 10% to 0%. This is to encourage local production of these particular products. Once again, that is the phone, the internal component. Some of us usually stop at removing the battery, but now all these parts come in specific units, and our children, our university graduates, our technical institute graduates are going to put these parts together, and we will find ourselves manufacturing in some of these parts locally as part of the entire schedule. Uganda is also producing our own local salt. They usually say you should not rely 100% on imported foodstuffs. Salt is very critical for our people, and we have local manufacturers who are bringing in salt at 0, raw salt at 10% instead of 25%, and this is to encourage local production. Some factories include Kampala Salt Industries. I'm aware a few more have come on board, and Uganda is going to be self-sustaining when it comes to the production of salt, a basic product in that category. Still going to demystify these electricals, we've had unassembled floor fans, table fans. As you notice, the fan will usually buy a complete finished fan. But now our children, still the graduates, will look at these parts, ensure that these parts are put together. If it requires to repair it or manufacture some of these parts locally here, that is the next move. We've also had unassembled cookers. The rate has been reduced from 10% to 0. We have local assemblers of cookers that will benefit from this and will employ many of our youth. So this one also goes for the glass, which is a raw material for those farms which are in that category of manufacturing glass. And we've had the ropes and cables. Those are internal components of the glass that we very much look forward to local manufacture and local assembly. Then packaging materials for coffee, we've seen now a 0% reduction from 0% to 25% for 1 year to help the local coffee roasters. We've also had the Chaguranyi coffee, for example, which takes away the coffee beans. So those packaging material for export in this regard have been also remitted to 0%. We've had equipment and appurtenant used for polishing and heat treatment of gemstones. As Uganda moves to add value on our minerals, as you notice in the preceding text, we had mentioned that there is value addition required on our minerals, and that's why there is a tax. So the machinery used to process these minerals has been put at a reduced rate of 0% to cater for this. You may not believe, but we're importing Irish potatoes all the way from Egypt and other countries and South Africa. When you go to some of these supply chains, the supermarkets, you'll find imports of Irish potatoes from outside Uganda, even with our capacity. So the rate has been increased to 60%, and that goes for the honey as well at 60%. Tiles, we are net producers of tiles, ladies and gentlemen. We actually even export. Some of our neighboring countries are not very sure that we produce, but when they come here to verify, they indeed find that we are net producers of tiles, and we are proud as a country that this product is in our midst. Transformers, we are also assembling transformers. We have companies that have been here for over 10 years, such as Korika. Indeed, they are manufacturing or assembling transformers in this regard. Then unassembled flat irons, we also would like to demystify the flat iron and know what is inside the flat iron and create jobs. And that goes for the speakers as well. The complete knockdown speakers were factories such Sachi Industries in Tinda. They are actually bringing in unassembled products of this nature to try and demystify the internal components of this for purposes of employing our youth. That goes for the bulbs. It also goes for the DVD players. We have also unassembled blenders in this regard, which come in at a reduced rate of 0% to try and promote local production. Then we've had unassembled hot water kettles, and in this regard, the kettles are very critical in our setting, that inside the kettle, we must find out what is inside. The youth will go ahead and indeed demystify this, and some of the parts in due course we shall be manufacturing ourselves. Then that goes for the tomato paste. We grow a lot of tomatoes in Uganda, and tomato paste in this regard, Reco Industries is one of the chief proponents. They produce a lot of this tomato sauce, and that's very, very important. Juice. Soroti Fruit Factory is already making juice in concentrate. We have also Britannia Industries making the splash, the well-known splash from our local fruits. We also have local manufacturers of pulp, like Chike Impex in Ruero, who are extracting pulp from pineapple in great volumes and supplying our local industries. We have television sets, also unassembled at a rate of 35%. They come in at 10% unassembled, but 35% is now to promote the importation to make sure that we locally assemble our own television sets. That goes for toys as well. The processed coffee has been put at 60%. As you are aware, in the beginning, we had the display of coffee that is the bags and the packaging material. Tea as well would like to add value. It has been increased to 35%. When you look at the supermarket shelves, most of the tea that we consume is indeed Ugandan tea, and that's very, very important for us as a country. Then we have processed tea, I've mentioned that. We have also jinga, tangauzi. We have a lot of it being imported. When you look at the cans, whenever you're going to put in your cup of tea, you'll notice that some of that jinga is not locally produced in Uganda. Yet we have a lot of it in the Masaka area, so all we need is to crush it and make it the standard that these colleagues, the manufacturers outside Uganda, are manufacturing to make sure we do this. So jams, marmalades are also in plenty in Uganda, but we have jams coming in all the way from the United States of America. And we would like to have this substituted. That's why there's a rate of 60% in this regard. We've also had shoe polish also increased to 35%. We've had also chicken, peanut butter coming in from the United States. Nutella is a bread spread. It's also at 60% to try and promote this. As you saw in the beginning, we had the increased value chain, especially in agriculture, that when you grow Irish potatoes, at least transform them to crisps. That way, the rate has been increased to 60% to protect local crisp manufacturers against imported ones. We also have a very big import bill on onions, shallots, fresh, and the like. We have also a lot of imports on refined cottonseed oil. The rate has also been increased to 60%. Sunflower is from northern Uganda. We have a lot of producers of sunflower, and that is one area that we are protecting. Uganda has also started producing chocolate powder. That is very, very critical from cocoa. Then we have also chocolates being manufactured by our local companies like Pink Foods, and that's very, very important. We've also had insecticides being manufactured in Uganda. Most of the countries, the high-rise area in our Cap country, like Kabale, they've been growing pyrethrum to try and make insecticides. So this is meant to promote more of these factories. That goes for wigs and beards. Those false ones have been increased to 35%. The steel blanks for spoons, we have local manufacturers of these steel blanks for spoons and forks. We also have furniture. His Excellency, the President, has been promoting furniture manufacturing, especially for the youth, has gone to great strides to donate some of these items to these places in Bwaise and other areas to try and make sure that we are abreast with this. The mixes, doughs, the butters we are producing locally, and these are very, very important for the economy. We're also net producers of tarpaulins. Ladies and gentlemen, these are very critical. Many factories are making tarpaulins. Ceramic toilet seats are also made in Kapeka. Bathrobes, as we promote the tourism sector, bathrobes are one of those areas that the people who rate hotels look at. The bathrobes have been remitted to zero for hotels, and that is very important that we have upscale hotels that will be critical for our country. We have also clothes dryers also for hotels to promote the tourism sector. Then, ladies and gentlemen, Uganda is also competing very favorably when it comes to road transport. And in the spirit of this, the tractor heads which pull the trailers have been reduced to 0%. Motor vehicles for carrying goods that exceed 5 tons but don't exceed 20 tons have been reduced to 10%. These are the Fuso fighters to carry matoke, to carry cassava, to carry rice from all over the country. Then the Magulu Kumi, the 12-tire trucks, have also been reduced to from 25 to 0 to try and promote transport in Uganda. We also have the Mama Kit. We all have our mothers. These are being given out free of charge by government in the health centers. Our honorable members of parliament have also donated this to most of the health communities. We appreciate. So they have been reduced to 0%, and so is the VAT. So motorcycle kits, as the country moves towards transport, improving transport, the motorcycle kits have been reduced to 10%. Soap noodles, these are going to help our manufacturers make soap, especially the toilet soap. Pneumatic rubbers, we are net manufacturers, so the rate has been increased from 10 to 35% to protect our motorcycle manufacturers in this regard. Then we've had wire of alloy steel. The stay of application is from 10 to 35 or $350 per metric ton, still to protect our local industry. That goes for the Mabati, the flat iron products. It also goes for all these steel products where we have. Then for mattress manufacturers, government is considering import duty a rate of 10% instead of 25%. The mega industries, the Euroflex, Crestform, stand to benefit from this very important move. Then on penstock pipes, ladies and gentlemen, we mentioned something about hydropower projects that are all over the country. The penstock pipes which direct water into the turbines have been reduced to 0% to make sure that power gets into some of these remote areas, and production as a country will certainly be steamed up, and we'll see more industries coming up. LPG gas cylinders, ladies and gentlemen, the import duty has been increased the rate of 25% for instead of 0. The reason is that we produce local gas cylinders, and these are different from the oxygen cylinders. The oxygen cylinders are slightly longer, and they are tax exempt. I would like to emphasize that, ladies and gentlemen, that oxygen cylinders for using the fight against COVID are 0% import duty. There's no VAT. They're exempt under the 5th schedule of the East African Community Common External. So whoever imports it will bring it in completely tax-free. There's no tax on this product courtesy of the government of Uganda. Barley grown in our highlands. Sausages, plenty of sausages in Uganda, 60%. Chewing gum at 35%. A lot of it is being produced. Chocolates, like we mentioned, biscuits, tomato sauce, all these are produced. Ladies and gentlemen, we're importing mineral water, and this measure is meant to protect our local manufacturers. We also produce a lot of refined base oil at 10% instead of 0. The lubricants have been put to 35% to try and promote our local manufacturers. That goes for the greases. It also goes for the toilet soap, where the rates have also been adjusted. We also produce a lot of corrugated boxes, a lot of tissue paper, a lot of exercise books. We also produce a lot of printed material, and the government of Uganda is in regard trying to make sure we protect these industries. Then blankets, we're also producing a lot of blankets. That goes for the steel as well. The furniture, the doors, the rates have also been increased. That goes for the mattresses. Toothbrushes, ladies and gentlemen, we have many factories now making toothbrushes. They have increased their capacity because of this measure. That goes for the ballpoint pens, the batteries, the deep cycle batteries we mentioned earlier. Wheat grain has been reduced to 10% because we are a net importer. Actually, Uganda is 12% food insufficient, and therefore we require to have some of these products coming in. Electrodes have been adjusted to 35%, and the alternative rate is $250 per metric ton. That goes for the safety matches, the nails and tacks as well in this regard. The cash registers have also been reduced to 0%, more specific, the electronic physical device machines that are going to help us in our IFRIS mandate. Umbrella heads are very important for manufacture of roofing nails. Aerosol cans in this regard are also very important. We have also had the baby diapers, the raw materials. Also, raw materials used in the manufacture of sanitizers are also catered for to help on COVID-19. Those also go for the mixtures. Then we have also a list of raw materials. My colleague will also talk about the raw materials that we are offering as the Revenue Authority to most of these manufacturers. So in summary, ladies and gentlemen, that is the incentive regime. That is what government has offered. We have other areas which I would also like to mention, that e-commerce, the de minimis, has been adjusted to $50. So goods below $50 will come in tax-free. That is when they are imported into this country. Then we shall be having another harmonized system, HS 2022. Every 5 years, the World Customs Organization continues to adjust the nomenclature. So in 2022, come 1st July, we shall have a new tariff. So please be on the lookout for that. We're also reviewing the East African Community Common External Tariff. The review looks at the rates, how tenable are they? As you notice in the preamble, the text above, we've been changing a bit of the rates to try and meet our local manufacturers. Then lastly, we have the African Continental Free Trade Area. Everybody should pay attention in this. We're integrating as the African Union. We also have the African Continental Free Trade Area for all of the African continent, and shall be trading together as one community. Finally, I would like to encourage you to stay safe, adhere to the Ministry of Health guidelines, maintain social distancing, wear your masks, and sanitize. I thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you so much, Elinathan. To our dear listeners and viewers that joined us along the way, you are most welcome once again. Today's topic on table is the Customs Tax Amendments 2021-2022. And our panelists this morning are Elinathan Masiko, who is a supervisor tariff, and he has just presented to us. I hope, Masiko, the ladies don't look for you after here, having called what they call their hair Chiwani or something. I hope they don't come for you, but
sure.
that is it, and the taxes have been increased. Ladies and gentlemen, here to speak to us is Sheila Chomcha, the acting supervisor tariff, that will be taking us through the incentives that the government of Uganda is offering and telling us about who are the people that qualify. We are having so many of you ask for the presentation. Be sure we are going to be sending this presentation to your emails, just like requested. Please drop your emails in the chat room where the questions and answers. Please make sure you drop your questions and we'll be able to answer them. Leave your emails. We will be sharing this presentation. Someone was asking about the past presentations that we've had. Yes, they are available. There are webinars that you could have missed are available on YouTube. Go to the YouTube and look out for URA TV. That is our channel. And be sure to catch those webinars. In the questions, we are having John ask that we are having taxes increased on so many items. Won't these chase investors out of Uganda? On the contrary, no. Just like Masiko has shared with you, all these amendments, most of them are aimed at promoting industrialization and investment in Uganda. We already have investors that are producing these goods whose taxes we are increasing for purposes of protecting them and promoting bubu. So just to answer you, on the contrary, we think this tax shall encourage foreign investment into Uganda. And those that are interested in investing, please, you're most welcome. Uganda is a place you need to put your money. To our taxpayers out there, thank you for paying your taxes. Once again, I am Rhoda Basemera, moderating this session. I am a valuation officer in Customs Department, Uganda Revenue Authority. Now, as earlier mentioned, Uganda's priority this financial year is on industrialization for inclusive growth, employment, wealth, and wealth creation. Now, as a result, Uganda is putting so much emphasis on import substitution, export promotion, and is offering incentives. We have been talking about bubu. We have been singing bubu. Buy Uganda, build Uganda. Now, we want to know, or we are getting to understand, what are these incentives that the government is offering? So to you, Sheila, what are the incentives that the government of Uganda is offering? And then we want to understand who are the people that qualify for them. Because someone already in the chat room is asking, I want to do toilet paper, I am doing this, do I qualify? Are the small businesses that are coming up, do they qualify? What are these incentives and who are the people that qualify for them? Thank you so much.
Okay, good morning, Rhoda. Good morning, colleagues. Good morning, viewers. Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you, Rhoda, for being a moderator today. My name is Sheila Chomcha Sinjiza. I'm acting supervisor tariff in the Customs Department of the Uganda Revenue Authority.
That's right.
So my presentation today is about taxation and investment for industrialization. Government is committed to develop industrialization so that it increases the jobs and improves the welfare of Ugandans. So my presentation outline, as displayed before you, will counter the definition of the key terms. I'm going to look at the overview of tax incentives. In this overview, we are going to look at the agriculture sector. Agriculture is a very big economic activity in Uganda. Many of our Ugandans are in agriculture, and we want to see how government is committed to develop the agriculture sector. We are going to look at manufacturing sector, the incentives that are leading to the growth in industry. we look at the transport sector, because without transport, there is no development, there is no industry. We will look at the incentives that will promote the transport sector. We look at the oil and gas sector. We want to look at how we can effectively use our energy sector, our oil and gas, how we can develop it, the various incentives that government is committed to employing to develop this sector. We look at education and sports sector and the incentives therein, and then we look at energy sector, what government is committed to do to develop this sector. Hotel and tourism sector, we shall look at the incentives therein that have led to the growth of this sector, even amidst the COVID-19 pandemic. We are going to look at the security sector incentives, the health and medical sector incentives, construction sector incentives, and then I will conclude with looking at the COVID-19 trade facilitation strategies that customs employs to ensure that cargo moves to our people regardless of the pandemic that we are in. So I will pick from the budget theme, industrialization for inclusive growth, employment and wealth creation in the financial year 2021-2022. So everything that we are doing is aimed at developing industrialization for inclusive growth, employment and wealth creation. Now this theme is based on the National Development Plan 3, and the overall goal is to increase the household incomes and improve the quality of life of Ugandans. This investment regime that I'm going to present to you is embedded in various tax laws to promote investment and therefore industrialization in the various sectors that I highlighted above. I would like to start by defining key terms. What is an incentive? In simple terms, an incentive is something that motivates or encourages someone to do something. What is gazettement? In our legal jargon, or maybe in simple terms, gazettement is an official publication of public information or documents. What is deferment? Deferment is the action of putting something off to a later time. And remission. A remission for us in customs means a reduction of duty. So these definitions form the backbone of my presentation today. And I would like to start with the tax incentives in agriculture. From the statistics that Mr. Masiko presented in his presentation, we see that agriculture has been stagnating for a period of time. But regardless, we have tax incentives that the government has employed to ensure that this sector blossoms. When we look at importation of hoes, plows, harrows, seeders, planters, agricultural sprayers, these are all agricultural implements. We are looking at agricultural chemicals, agricultural tractors, animal feeds. VAT is exempted when imported by dealers under the VAT Act. However, all taxes are exempted when imported by persons that are engaged in agriculture under the 5th schedule of the East African Community Customs Management Act. We go ahead to look at the importation of fertilizers, refrigerated trucks, aluminium cans for the dairy industry to promote our dairy farmers, seeds for sowing, spores, and cut plants. All these agricultural inputs are exempted from taxes under the 5th schedule of the East African Community Customs Management Act, so that we can make agriculture affordable and promote the sector. We are looking at promoting industry in agriculture through increasing the value addition lines. So these are the incentives that government employs to develop the sector. We go on to look at manufacturing. Manufacturing is an industry, is an industry that promotes industry, and it is one of the key sectors that government is committed to supporting. We will look at the VAT deferment facility, where VAT, a consumption tax, may be deferred on plant and machinery imported for own use in accordance with the VAT deferment regulations. When we talk about plant and machinery, we are talking about packing machinery, boiling machinery, construction machinery. Importation of plant and machinery may be deferred when imported in accordance with the VAT deferment regulations of 2013. VAT deferment is where payment of VAT at importation on specified imports is postponed to a future date. The cost of the plant and machinery should be at least $22,500 US. However, there are some conditions of approval before you can benefit from the VAT deferment facility. The first one, and I quote, is that the applicant should be registered under Part 3 of the VAT Act. The plant and machinery in respect of which the application is made should be imported for use in the business of the applicant. The tax due and in respect of which a deferment is sought should be at least $4,000 US, and the applicant should comply with Section 31 of the Act, which relates to filing of returns. Once our distinguished importers meet these conditions, the VAT will be deferred on their imported plant and machinery. The next facility we are going to look at is the duty remission facility. Now, this facility is a reduction of duty on essential raw materials not locally available, imported for the manufacture of goods in a partner state to lower the costs of manufacturing and increase competitiveness. The objectives of the duty remission facility are to promote export trade among the East African Community partner states, to make locally manufactured goods more competitive, and also to promote industrialization within the region. We have a legal provision that promotes the duty remission scheme, and it is found in Section 140 of the East African Community Customs Management Act. And it states that the Council may grant remission of duty on goods imported for the manufacture of goods in a partner state. This is accompanied by duty remission regulations and Council decisions that are released by the East African Community. We have two types of duty remission. We have a regional duty remission. This is duty remission granted to all partner states on goods imported for use in the manufacture of approved goods for home consumption. With the regional duty remission, it means that this facility is for all the other countries that belong to the East African Community. They enjoy the facility as well. Then we have the country-specific duty remission. This is a duty remission regime that is granted upon a request by a partner state. So Uganda, being one of the EAC countries, we have some of those goods or raw materials that are vital for our manufacturers. So we request for duty to be remitted on these raw materials so that our manufacturers are more competitive. But there is a condition on the country-specific duty remission. In the event that the finished goods are sold in any other partner state within the community, they will attract duties as provided in the East African Community Common External Tariff. So which goods are eligible for duty remission. Duty remission is only applicable to the goods imported for use in the manufacture of approved goods for home consumption, as the Council may time to time by notice in the Gazette determine. So for goods to be eligible for duty remission, they have to be gazetted and they have to be approved by the Council of Ministers at the East African Community. Manufacturers eligible for duty remission. A manufacturer or producer to whom remission is granted and published in the Gazette in accordance with Section 140 of the Act. So for the manufacturer to be eligible for duty remission, he or she needs to be published in the Gazette after the approval process has been done. So that is when the manufacturer is eligible for the duty remission facility. So how can a manufacturer benefit from the duty remission facility? So these are the steps, and the first one is that the application has to be made for remission of duty, and this is made to the Council through the Commissioner of Customs. We work together with the Uganda Manufacturers Association to make sure that we receive as many applications for the remission of duty that are made to the Council through the Commissioner of Customs. Upon receipt of an application for remission, the Commissioner then shall forward the application to the Duty Remission Committee for its comments. The Duty Remission Committee is well represented with colleagues from the Ministry of Trade, the Ministry of Finance, the Uganda Manufacturers Association, and the Uganda Revenue Authority. Then the Commissioner shall, after receiving the comments under Sub-Regulation 2, forward the application together with his or her comments to the Council for publishing in the Gazette in accordance with Section 140 of the Act. It is after the Council has approved and the company is gazetted is when you will be able to benefit from the duty remission facility. So, which goods are eligible for duty remission? I have listed some examples of items under the regional duty remission, and these include white refined sugar for industrial use, where import duty is remitted to 10%. We have paper for use in the manufacture of exercise books and textbooks, where import duty is remitted to 0, and this is to support all our manufacturers who are manufacturing our exercise books and our textbooks. Unassembled or complete knockdown motorcycle kits imported by approved local assemblers of motorcycles, this is remitted to 10%. And then the various listed raw materials for the manufacture of textiles and shoes also benefit from the duty remission facility, where import duty is remitted to 0 and 10%. And this has promoted the development or the production of masks, the production of our uniforms, the production of our shoes. All of our manufacturers, or most of them, are benefiting from the duty remission facility. We have raw materials for manufacture of sanitary towels and baby diapers. This all promotes industrialization and industry, and it also gives our people jobs, it gives URA revenue, and it has increased the revenue that we get from industry. Component parts and inputs for assemblers of refrigerators and freezers, where import duty is remitted to 10%. I'll look at some examples of items under the country-specific duty remission. And this is the remissions where us as a country went to the EAC and requested for a remission of duty. We have inputs for the assembly or manufacture of mobile phones, and these inputs are remitted to 0%. This has encouraged investors to come and assemble the mobile phones from here, which has helped to generate revenue and to give our Ugandans jobs. Odoriferous mixtures of a kind used as raw materials in food and drink industries, import duty is remitted to 0%. This is a major raw material in food industries or beverage industries where we need to include a flavor to make the food more palatable. Polycotton mattress covers and jacquard material for the manufacture of mattresses and inputs for the manufacture of toothbrushes remitted to 0%. So these are a few examples I've highlighted where import duty is remitted on raw material to boost industry and manufacturing and to promote industrialization. We have a duty drawback facility. Here, customs refunds all or part of the import duty paid on material inputs imported to produce goods for export or used in a manner for a purpose described as conditions for granting duty drawback. So once you spend money to import raw material to produce goods for export, customs will refund this back under the duty drawback facility in a bid to promote industrialization and exports. Industrial spares imported as replacement parts used exclusively on industrial machinery imported by registered manufacturers are exempt from tax in accordance to Section 114 of the East African Community Customs Management Act, whereby a spare part is a duplicate part to replace a lost or damaged part of a machine. So to our manufacturers, once they are in the business of production and the machine line gets faulty, you can import your industrial spare free of duty because you are a registered manufacturer, all in a bid to improve manufacturing, to improve industrialization, and to make our products more competitive. We have a manufacturing under bond facility. It is a facility extended to manufacturers to import plant, machinery, equipment, and raw materials tax-free for use in the manufacture of goods for export. So with such kind of facilities, we encourage investors to come and invest in our country because of these incentives. And when they do that, they improve the industrialization, they improve the infrastructure, they give our people jobs, they give us revenue, and this ultimately leads to the development of our country. Export processing zones, these are designated parts of customs territories where any goods introduced are generally regarded insofar as import duties and taxes are concerned as being outside the customs territory but are restricted by controlled access. Goods entering an export processing zone or a free port shall be exempt from duty in accordance with the East African Community Customs Management Act. Here URA works together with the Uganda Free Zones Authority to ensure that these incentives are actually available for our investors so that we can be able to promote production for our export market. And in this way, we increase our revenues. Still in the manufacturing sector, we have containers and pallets used for packing, and these include boxes, tins, bottles, jars, and other packages in which any goods not liable to ad valorem duty are packed and imported, being ordinary trade packages for the goods contained therein. So these containers and pallets that are used to package goods for exports will be exempt from taxes under the East African Community Common External, under the East African Community Customs Management Act. So we've looked at packaging material for exports of coffee, of exports of tea, of all the exports. These don't pay taxes in accordance with the East African Community Customs Management Act. When we get to the transport sector, we have duty-free import of aircrafts and aircraft accessories. These include the aircrafts, the aircraft engines, the parts and accessories, the air navigation instruments, the lighting, the radio and radar apparatus, the equipment for servicing and maintenance of aircrafts. So we have seen various aircrafts coming on board because of these incentives, especially our famous Air Uganda. So once these aircrafts and accessories are imported, they are exempted from taxes under the 5th schedule of the East African Community Customs Management Act. We have commercial vehicles of gross vehicle weight of 20 tons and above. They are free of import duty and VAT is payable. This is to make sure that our goods or cargo can move from the border inland to Uganda at a reasonable cost. The road tractors for semi-trailers, free of import duty and VAT is payable. The ships and other vessels, including passenger vessels of 25 tonnage weight or more, are exempted from taxes under the 5th schedule of the East African Community Customs Management Act, all in a bid to promote the transport sector as a vehicle for industrialization. Battery-operated vehicles for use in hotels, hospitals, and airports are also exempt from taxes. We are going to look at the environmental protection sector. Government is also committed to make sure that the environment is protected for sustainability for future generations. So motor vehicles specially designed for refuse, garbage collection and disposal, imported or purchased by local authorities or persons contracted by local authorities to collect garbage are exempt from taxes, as well as water treatment effluent plant. So we have all these industries, and industries will produce wastage, but as long as you import a treatment plant that is going to clean the wastage and to ensure that our environment is preserved, these are exempted from taxes in accordance with the Customs Management Act. The oil and gas sector, we are looking at drilling our oil as one of the sources of revenue. So government is committed to develop this sector, and these are the tax incentives. Equipment and inputs and goods for direct and exclusive use in oil, gas, or geothermal exploration and development except motor vehicles. Here we are looking at compressors, we are looking at drilling rigs, we are looking at the grinding machines, we are looking at the mixing machinery, any equipment and input that is used for direct and exclusive use in oil, gas, or geothermal exploration are exempt from taxes. We also have machinery and spares used for mining imported by licensed mining companies. So we notice that the mining sector is growing. We have so many minerals that are being mined out of Uganda. So government is committed to developing this sector by introducing such incentives to remove taxes on machinery and spares. My colleague talked about the vermiculite and the marble that are being mined for export, and these are the incentives that our investors can benefit from. We look at education and sports sector. Education being vital for our people in order to develop our country. All approved education articles and materials as specified in the Florence Agreement are tax exempt under the 5th schedule of the East African Community Customs Management Act. And this basically includes educational material like the books, publications, and documents, works of art. As long as these products have a scientific or education nature, they will be exempt from taxes under the provisions of the Florence Agreement. This Florence Agreement was discussed in the town of Florence in 1950. There was an amendment in Nairobi in 1976, but the major objective is to promote the movement of education, cultural, and scientific equipment so that we can promote the education of our people. One motor vehicle for a rally driver and a spare part is exempt from taxes. There are also some tax incentives on bicycles for rally or racing. We have imported crayons, colored pencils, lead pencils, rulers, erasers, Bibles, Qurans, textbooks, mathematical sets and geometry sets. These will be exempted from VAT under the VAT Act, all in a bid to promote education in our education facilities. The energy sector. We are looking at conserving energy and making it more efficient. So the specialized equipment for generation of solar and wind energy, photovoltaic modules, direct current charge controllers, direct current inverters, and solar deep cycle batteries, which use and or store solar power, are tax exempt under the 5th schedule of the East African Community Customs Management Act. So we have seen so many solar kits that are being imported under this regime to promote the energy conservation in the country. Penstock pipes for use in hydropower projects are exempted from VAT under the VAT Act. This is in a bid to promote the generation of hydropower from many of the water sources that we have in the country. Plastic bag biogas digesters are exempt under the 5th schedule of the East African Community Customs Management Act. And these bags are basically using the natural sources, maybe waste or agricultural residue, to be able to produce some gases like methane. So once these plastic bag biogas digesters are imported, they are exempt under the 5th schedule of the East African Community Customs Management Act. We have composite lanterns. These days we see a lot of lanterns with a solar panel on the top. The solar panels, the solar water heaters, the solar refrigerators, and the solar cookers. These are exempt from VAT under the VAT Act. We want to look at hotel and tourism. Hotel and tourism, this is one sector that gives us a lot of foreign revenue because of the attraction to tourists. However, because of the COVID-19 pandemic, we see that the sector seems to be struggling. But regardless, these tax incentives will still apply. Any of the following goods engraved or printed or marked with a hotel logo imported by use by a licensed hotel. These include washing machines, kitchenware, cookers, fridges and freezers, air conditioning systems, cutlery, televisions, carpets, furniture, linen and curtains, gym equipment, bathrobes and slippers, and cloth dryers. We would like to promote our hotel industry to a level that can compete at an international level. So these are exempted from taxes under the East African Community Customs Management Act. We have specially designed and built motor vehicles that tourists like to use to go and see our resources. These include sightseeing buses, overland trucks, tourism boats for transportation of tourists, as long as they're imported by licensed tour operators upon recommendation by a competent authority responsible for tourism promotion. They are exempt from taxes under the 5th schedule of the East African Community Customs Management Act. Security. So without security, there is no development. Without security, it stops so many of our activities. So in the security sector, we have security equipment that include handheld metal detectors, walk-through metal detectors, CCTV cameras, bomb detectors, undercarriage mirrors. These are exempt under the 5th schedule of the East African Community Customs Management Act. We want to look at the health and the medical sector. It goes without saying that the COVID pandemic has really hit the country, and this is a reason why the health sector needs to be supported in such a way that it can be able to overcome this pandemic. So amongst the tax incentives, we have items imported for use in licensed hospitals that include shadowless lamps for use in operating theaters, blood freezers, kitchenware and equipment, laundry equipment, mattresses and linen, bedside screens, air conditioners, water heaters, furniture, trolleys and stretchers are exempt from taxes under the Customs Management Act. We also want to promote the manufacture of medicaments in the country. So packaging materials and raw materials for the manufacture of medicaments upon recommendation of the authority responsible for the manufacture of medicaments are also exempt from taxes. Because of this, we have seen many of our investors who are interested in the manufacture of medicines come on board. Examination gloves for laboratory or medical use. We are looking at the gloves that are used for examination of our patients in the hospitals. These are exempted from taxes under the East African Community Act so as to boost the health and the medical sector. We have materials, articles, and equipment, including one motor vehicle, which is specially designed for use by disabled or handicapped persons. So handicapped persons can also import their motor vehicles as long as they are specially designed for their use and they import them free of taxes. We have heating, ventilating, and air conditioning equipment for pharmaceutical manufacturers. You can imagine in a pharmaceutical industry, there's so many fumes of chemicals that are lying around. So heating, ventilating, and air conditioning equipment are free of tax for pharmaceutical manufacturers so that we can keep our people and our environment safe. Refrigeration equipment for dead bodies for use in the hospitals, the city council, or funeral homes are also exempted from taxes under the 5th schedule of the East African Community Customs Management Act. Still on the health and medical sector, we have ambulances, motorboat ambulances, motor vehicle ambulances. We have the maternity kit for expecting mothers. Import duty is zero under the East African Community Customs Management Act for the ambulances, and tax VAT is exempt for the ambulances. Now, any supplies for diagnosis, prevention, treatment, and management of epidemics, pandemics, and health hazards as recommended by the competent authority in the ministry responsible for health. So we are fighting a pandemic, so any supply that is going to use to diagnose or treat this disease will be exempted from taxes on recommendation from the Ministry of Health. We have inputs for use in the manufacture of diagnostic kits. We have seen some of our medical personnel trying to come up with some of the diagnostic kits for COVID and all these related illnesses. These inputs for use in the manufacture of these diagnostic kits will be exempted from taxes. We also have the diagnostic reagents, the equipment, and the blood collection tubes will also be exempt from taxes as recommended by the Director of Medical Services in the Ministry of Health. These will be exempted from taxes as an incentive to promote the health and the medical sector in our country. We look at the construction sector, where we are looking at importation of specialized vehicles like the concrete mixers, the firefighting vehicles, the earth-moving machinery, the excavators, bulldozers and angle dozers, cranes for construction. This equipment is free of import duty by tariff, and VAT is deferrable for VAT-registered companies in line with the VAT deferment regulations. So with that brief on tax incentives, I'd like to quickly highlight COVID-19 trade facilitation strategies that Customs Department is employing to make sure that cargo moves from the borders for use by our people. We are using online services because of COVID-19, and one of them is the Customs Help Tool. Through this help tool, our clients, especially the clearing agents, are able to lodge their requests or their challenges, and customs officials are readily available to help you without you coming to the office. We are using scanners and non-intrusive inspection for faster and safer clearing of goods at the border, and we are using a regional electronic cargo tracking system to ensure safe clearance of cargo and monitoring of drivers at the border. I would like to highlight the tax exemption on oxygen gas cylinders, inputs for manufacture of personal protective equipment, masks, sanitizers, ventilators, medical boots, medical impermeable aprons, coverall suits. All other items that are used in the COVID-19 pandemic are exempted from taxes as long as somebody has a recommendation letter from the Ministry of Health, so that we fight the pandemic together. I'd like to conclude by our references. I made reference to our guide to tax incentives on exemptions available to investors in Uganda. I made reference to the East African Community Customs Management Act 2004, and I made reference to the tax amendments documents for 2021, 2022, and all these documents are available on our website at ura.go.ug. I want to thank you for listening to me.
Thank you so much, Sheila. And I am very confident after this conversation that we have had and discussion, our taxpayers out there are able to make informed decision when it comes to investment, because Sheila has done justice to incentives, just like Elinathan took us through the amendments that are available for 2021, 2022. Thank you so much for those that have been with us from the start or joined us later. We have over 450 participants that have joined us for this webinar, and that is something we are so grateful for. And for those that joined along the way or missed any of this presentation, you will be able to catch us on YouTube. You go to our channel, which is URA TV, and you'll be able to find this presentation from the beginning. We are sorry for the blurry image that could have come in at the start, but that is something that was rectified later. And in the upload, I am sure you'll find all these details. Many of us have sent in questions, and some of you have not yet sent through your questions in regard to the topic on table. And it is this time that we delve into answering these questions. I am going to pose like 2 questions to Sheila, 2 questions to Elinathan, and they will be able to answer those as we take on more. Our webinar will be ending at exactly midday. So we have about 30 minutes or 26 minutes to take on these questions and be able to answer them. We hope we'll be able to give you the answers that you expect. And from what I see, some of the questions have actually already been answered as the presentations went on. Now, I will start with Sheila and give you the 2 questions which you will answer after Masiko has answered his questions. For those that could have joined us late, I am Rhoda, a valuation officer at Uganda Revenue Authority, and our panelists this morning is Elinathan Masiko, the supervisor in tariff, that is under the Customs Department of Uganda Revenue Authority, and he is a supervisor tariff. And then we have another panelist who is Sheila Chomsha, the acting supervisor tariff. Now, Sheila, what efforts, we are having a question that is coming in from Tumusime Nicholas, and he's asking, what efforts has URA taken in place to curb down imposters or manufacturers, especially those of herbal drinks and toilet papers that are masquerading as manufacturers and robbing taxes and causing unhealthy competition? And the second question that you will be taking on from our viewers is, what tax incentives are available for local manufacturers? Now, this was asked by a silk railing and railing factory person for the silk cloth production. So they are at a point where they're starting and they want to know They want to know what incentives apply to them. Oh, then the final third question that I'm putting to your table, Sheila, is someone is asking, your incentives that you have, the incentives that you have talked about seem to be in the line of only manufacturers. Are there any incentives for people that are in the humanitarian field, to be specific, the NGOs? So they want to know incentives that apply to them, that they're not manufacturers, but they are humanitarian organizations. Those are the three questions you'll be taking, and you'll be taking them after Masiko, who is going to take on. There is an excise duty of 247 shillings per kilogram on large format rolls, PVC flex rolls. Now, these are used in the manufacture of billboards. So Deus wants to know, do we have any manufacturer in Uganda so that they are able to support that manufacturer, or do they continue importing? Now, the second question, which are two and we are combining into one, was in regard to garments. Our dear viewers, especially we have Sino Equator Imports, is inquiring, is requesting for more details and explanation regarding garments and clothing imports, together with another viewer who asked that you explain this in simple terms with examples for them to understand it. Thank you so much. Our dear viewers and listeners will be taking questions as they come in, and for now, we'll get back to our panelists to be able to answer these questions, starting with you, Elinathan.
Thank you very much, moderator. Once again, Elinathan Masiko are my names. Excise duty of 247 shillings per kilograms on large format rolls for billboards. Do we have a local manufacturer of the same so that you can support? Yes, this excise rate is applicable to plastic products, and this was passed in the recent budget amendments, like we mentioned, on plastic granules and plastic products. So plastic products is where this category of product falls, and indeed it is across the board. So the excise is meant to cater for those who are in this business of plastics, and those who are able to demonstrate that they can recycle these plastic materials will get a remission. So this is mainly an environmental tax. You are all aware that plastics have been a very big challenge for this country. When it rains, you notice that there is a lot of plastics that tends to get across the roads, in some of the gardens, and the government is trying to find a mechanism on how they can indeed recycle this material, have the capacity to collect them, and in the event that the person who is manufacturing these items can demonstrate that he's able to pick what he has churned out into the population, that he's able to get it back and churn it out or use recycled materials, then he will be able to get a remission on this particular product. So they may not be a local manufacturer, but this is a tax that cuts across all plastic products for purposes of protecting the environment, which we all believe we are aware. The plastic lasts very long in the soil. They are very dangerous for the soils. So any polymer or any plastic products in this regard is what is being targeted. But it is in the spirit of trying to make sure that we recycle these materials. Some countries have gone ahead to ban these products, which would hurt the economy much more. So this is a more moderate approach that the government has taken to try and find a middle ground on how they can actually keep the environment clean and ensure that people still benefit from these products that they're utilizing. Yes, garments. The rates indeed on garments and textiles. First is that garments come from fabrics. So the rate of fabrics has been adjusted from 25 to 35 or $3 per kilogram, whichever is higher. This is meant to protect factories that are doing the entire value chain. You are well aware that we grow a lot of cotton in northern Uganda. That cotton, 96% of that cotton that we grow is exported. We consume about 4% of the cotton that we produce in Uganda. So the intention is to have these factories process the entire value chain, from cotton to yarn, from yarn to the fabric, then from the fabric now to the garment. So those who are in the business of textiles, like I mentioned earlier, when you go to some of these factories where you buy this material from, you realize that there are a lot of jobs in those factories. On the African continent, many countries such as Ethiopia, that you would like us to have an example of, and some of our neighboring countries, have taken a very robust approach to the textile sector. And we notice that they have employed very many of the youth. They are off the streets, they are busy making trousers, they are making uniforms, they are, knitting from yarn, making fabrics. So it has a tendency to employ very many people, and many governments that have embraced this approach have indeed managed to make a breakthrough, especially in the employing of our youth, who are a serious keg in terms of, a time bomb that we must look at and ensure that we have and harness jobs for purposes of our future. So the garment sector has been targeted. It's one of those areas that government is trying to encourage people to join. Let's have more of these mills producing fabrics. Let's have more of these garmenting establishments, making uniforms, making shirts. Then the employment in this regard will be right from the farm, because the demand for growing cotton has reduced because the demand is just only external. Look at 96%. Only 4% consumed local. So we are actually, in the words of His Excellency the President, donating jobs to the outsiders, yet these jobs would be here in Uganda. So we could do a case study for Ethiopia. It's a very good case study where the textile sector has removed very many youth from the streets. And that is something that we can benchmark on. And we encourage those who are in this sector who understand it very well, you the importers, to form groups and associations. Most of this equipment has been exempted from taxes. Equipment for knitting, equipment for garmenting has been exempted from taxes, and you'll bring in this equipment tax-free so that we have jobs for our children. I thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Elinathan. And in simple terms, we are saying if you're bringing in garments, we are no longer saying your shirt costs this value. Your trouser, one piece, we are valuing it at this amount. We are simply saying we are consolidating all these garments and weighing them and charging tax per kilogram, right?
Correct. The import duty.
The import duty is charged per kilogram.
Yes.
So we are not charging it per the value of the item.
Yeah, just to clarify on that, the 35% or $3 for the garments, for the fabrics, is on import duty alone. So the VAT is based on the value plus the import duty, which gives you now the VAT value, and the VAT value now is what gives you, so initially it is premised on the VAT, so on the value of the item itself. So the value remains the same, but the import duty rate is now what is premised on whichever is higher. If 35 is higher than $3, we will take that. So it's only import duty.
Thank you so much, Elinathan, for that clarity. We turn to Sheila, and Sheila, before you take on your questions, I have two people. I have Richard asking, and his question is: the import duty on oxygen gas cylinders was reduced to 0%, and I have not heard anything about medical equipment. Isn't this the time we reduce tax on the medical equipment? Just to answer you, the medical equipment taxes is not there also, right?
Absolutely.
It was reduced.
It was removed.
Yeah.
And there is another question that that I am answering that came in from Okay. There is a legal notice that was issued on masks and sanitizers being exempt, those ones that are being imported. And they're saying this legal notice that is in circulation expired on the 30th of June 2021, and they have not seen any renewal. So the person wanted to know whether it was automatically renewed or the exemption was actually removed. Masiko, you will take that on, but I am sure the exemption is still
Absolutely.
the exemption is still on and
Absolutely,
running.
yes.
So I will lessen the questions and the burden on you and answer
Okay,
that.
just maybe to just clarify. Yes, indeed, that particular provision was running up to that time, but there was Section 20, which was amended to cater for all items that will be imported for the COVID pandemic. And as you know, there are many things which are coming up, many products, innovation. There are these spray where you enter and it sprays you with the... So those are new innovations which we may not see at the time of crafting the law. So it has been broadened enough to accommodate all items for COVID. And as long as you get a letter of recommendation from the Ministry of Health, then you are able to get that exemption. So it still exists also for the raw materials and also for the finished items. I thank you.
Thank you so much. Now let's turn to Sheila to answer the questions that you have, the two questions, please. Sheila.
Thank you, Rhoda, and thank you, colleagues and our viewers, for your questions. I'll start by answering the question from Mr. Muzamil Joram, and he's involved in silk reeling factory. So they get silk from our farmers, and then they add value to make some silk products, in my understanding. So he's asking if there are any tax incentives for his business. So based on the presentation, this facility can benefit on VAT deferment if they have imported plant and machinery. And as long as they meet the VAT deferment regulations, then VAT will be exempted on most of the machinery, and machinery is also a capital good, and one of the principles of the East African Community Common External Tariff is that machinery are considered as capital goods and import duty is therefore zero. So if he meets the VAT deferment regulations, import duty on the machinery will be zero and VAT will be deferred. So he's talking about silk and getting silk from our farmers. So this means that this facility is part of the agricultural value chain. So we have item 15, which looks at implements and tools used in agriculture. So this facility will have to demonstrate to us the region or the way that they are involved in agriculture to be able to benefit from the tax incentives for the agricultural value chain. So they'll be able to benefit for the farmers, for their tractors, their chemicals, their sprayers. If this is part of the agricultural value chain, they'll be able to benefit from some of the processing machinery. So there are tax incentives for the agricultural value chain, and there are tax incentives for importation of machinery. I'll go to the question on the humanitarian NGO that are not necessarily manufacturing. The presentation has looked at tax incentives in various sectors. One of them is manufacturing, but we've also looked at tax incentives in other sectors like agriculture. So many of the NGOs, even if they are not in agriculture, they must be in a particular sector. We've seen many NGOs in medical sector that import many medical items. We have seen NGOs in the educational sector that import many educational items. We have seen also NGOs in the agriculture sector. So once you are in these sectors, then you are able to benefit from some of these facilities. If you are in agriculture and you see that we see that you're part, or you demonstrate that you're part of the agricultural value chain, you can benefit as long as you are involved in agriculture. For medical items, the medical implements, the medical goods, as long as you meet the conditions, they will be exempted from taxes. For the education, we've looked at the Florence Agreement. As long as these educational materials are imported from countries that are signatory to the Florence Agreement, they will benefit from taxes. So with donations, many times, we have also seen gifts like books, like shoes, like clothes. These ones don't benefit from taxes because we want to promote boo-boo. So we can get many of these things, furniture, from within the country. So when they come as donations with the NGOs, they may not benefit from the tax incentives. But as long as the NGOs are related to the medical sector, to the education sector, to the agricultural sector, energy sector, and they meet the conditions for the incentives, then they will be able to benefit from these incentives. The third question is investors who are masquerading like herbal drinks and toilet paper. What has URA done to curb this? So we have our teams in the field, our enforcement teams in the field that look out for people who are out of the tax bracket. We expect our taxpayers or our citizens to be responsible and to be registered with a location. We expect them to be filing their returns on time. At least we expect our citizens to have a tax identification number. So once our enforcement teams, through various information sources, realize that people are working outside the bracket, it is mandated that these people are brought into the tax base and they meet the conditions for which to operate and pay the responsible taxes. But to benefit from tax incentives, you need to meet the conditions for the tax incentives. If you need recommendation letters, these need to be availed. If we need to visit your facility, this will be done before you can be able to benefit from tax incentives. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Sheila, and for our listeners for keeping with us till this far. We have a few minutes to close our webinar. I will give one more question to Masiko and one more question to Sheila, and then we'll wrap it up and close. Now, Masiko, there is a question. What is the reason for putting excise duty of 250 shillings per kilogram on HDPE, yet it is totally a raw material? Now, Sheila, the question that I am putting to you is, someone manufactures boxes for speakers, from the local material here, wood, and then he says he wants to import the inputs, the parts, to make the speakers. And then he wants to know the documents that he needs to be able to legalize his importation or to benefit from the exemptions. Do you think this is something we can give them now, or we'll send them details? You will guide me on that. Thank you. Mr. Masiko, take this one.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yes, indeed, the high-density polyethylene is a raw material. That can be in the form of granules, and the importers are indeed going to convert it into an article, like a jerry can, like a mineral water. PET preforms for making mineral water bottles. And you see them indeed manifest themselves in the shelves where we purchase these. Some of us do throw them through the windows. So they are taken through, when it rains, they get into the gutters. That story I've told you before. So the government felt that it's best to have this handled at the point of importation. And in the event that someone who is a manufacturer who is going to make a jerry can or a PET preform or a basin demonstrates that he's able to recycle and use these materials that he actually has churned out, because some manufacturers are indeed manufacturing and they are not recycling what they manufacture. And that means that they keep pumping these products into the population without necessarily recourse to actually, converting them into more usable forms. So the task is now on either government or private individuals who collect these, which you see in our trading centers, to reconvert them into that. So there should be a deliberate mechanism on seeing that this factory which churns out this plastic material is going to pick it up again from the population and recycle it and reuse it, so that our import bill, first of all, goes down. Because when you use recycled material, that means you import less. or you just mix the imported virgin material with the recycled one for purposes of, having less plastic in the economy or in the population out there. So the incentive is there for those who intend to recycle or who intend to use recycled materials. Take advantage of that avenue so that the remission of this excise duty is given on some of these products. I thank you.
Yes, yes, Rhoda. My question was to do with an investor who would like to import parts to assemble speakers. So under the duty remission scheme for this financial year 21-22, we have a facility where duty is remitted on inputs for speakers to 0%. So I request the investor to visit our office and he makes his application to us, and then we will do the necessary checks and we will do the necessary stuff we need to do so that we can ensure that he will benefit if he qualifies. Yes.
Thank you so much, Sheila. Thank you, our listeners, for tuning in and listening in. We have come to the closure of our webinar. In case you missed any of this, be sure to catch us on our YouTube channel, URA TV. And once again, today, I am Rhoda Basemera, Valuation Officer at Uganda Revenue Authority, and I have been moderating this session. And our panelists have been Elinathan Masiko and Sheila Chomcha, discussing the Customs Tax Amendments 2021-2022. Thank you so much. For any of the information, please contact us. You can send us email at services@ura.go.ug, or you can reach us on our website, or you can call our toll-free lines, which are 0800-117-000 or 0800-217-000. Thank you so much, and this presentation will be uploaded onto the URA website. You can find it under the A to Z topics on the URA website, www.ura.go.ug. Thank you for tuning in. Till next time, God bless you.